Barbadian Live to you.
We are TV8.
Efforts to reduce the cost of living focused at the agricultural level. Red Jet lays off staff. And in sports, the BFA calls on FIFA to reinstate Lyle Austin.
Credible, balanced, committed. This is the CBC Evening News.
Good evening, I'm Pearson Bowen. This is the CBC Evening News. Government is looking to tackle the cost of living at the farming level by using the next annual AgroFest exhibition to promote the use of renewable energy. Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Agricultural Society, James Paul, says they will be targeting farmers to get them to use renewable energy wherever possible in their daily operations. Ron Brathwaite reports.
The rising feed and operations costs are just a few of the many challenges facing local poultry and livestock farmers. However, head of the BAS, James Paul, believes working-class Barbadian customers are the ones feeling it most in their pockets. According to Mr. Paul, this is so mainly because of antiquated technologies and farming practices. He believes renewable energy use is the solution to these challenges. Mr. Paul says, although it might not be seen as directly reducing the retail price of commodities, he says investing in initiatives would help to minimize operating expenditure, which form a major part of the final pricing structure.
Due to the fact that we are facing a very peculiar situation in the world today, we are going to have to look at it and see the extent to which we can actually use renewable energy to decrease the cost of production on farms.
The BAS head says he will be pushing the initiative of renewable energy use during AgroFest to get more farmers to buy into the concept.
What we in the BAS intend to do is that we need to start to champion that process now, and I think that is what we'll be undertaking to do. As a matter of fact, I can tell you now in terms of AgroFest next year, that is something that is going to be a critical thing that we're looking at in terms of looking at renewable energies.
Yesterday, the island's leading feed supplier, Pinnacle Feeds, raised the price of its poultry and livestock feeds, a situation which Mr. Paul says the BAS understands and sympathizes with farmers.
It is a very difficult situation. I don't think that we have experienced this kind of situation before. And it is ready to get worse. So we have now to come up with ideas that can actually keep our farmers out there continuing to be profitable and continuing to be able to provide a source of income for their families.
Mr. Paul says the hike in feed price should be felt as early as a month and a half from now, when the first crop of chickens are expected to be grown using the recent imported batch of corn. For pigs, sheep and beef farmers, he says Barbadians should be seeing the difference in about 6 to 8 months. However, Mr. Paul says increased prices from dairy farmers will be felt almost instantaneously. Ron Brathwaite, CBC News.
Locally based regional carrier Red Jet today announced it has laid off 8 members of its cabin crew. A company spokesperson said the decision was a difficult one for the low-cost carrier, which began flights out of Grantley Adams International Airport a month ago. In a statement, Red Jet blamed regulatory delays which have adversely affected plans for the start of flights to Trinidad and Jamaica. The statement says those delays have led to the severe underutilization of the skills of the 8 laid-off cabin crew. Red Jet says the 8 will resume duties once the airline is able to commence its full schedule of flights. Red Jet currently flies only between Barbados and Ghana. It employs 86 persons. In news from the House now, government is pushing ahead with the relocation of persons living along the flight path of aircraft landing at the Grantley Adams International Airport. International Transport Minister George Hudson says replacement homes have been constructed for about 8 families residing in Parish Land and Ferry Valley and will soon be handed over. He says the 8 homes were built at a cost of over $1 million and 6 others are under construction. Mr. Hudson spoke in the House of Assembly as he piloted an amendment to have the airport exempt from paying tax on capital expenditure it is undertaking.
Those other lots have been allocated in the area, the Leadville area, near Charnox. But I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that part of that whole exercise of constructing those 6-8 houses that are near finish, again, has been done within the budget, I believe just short of $1 million have been spent on those, on that work. We still have the challenges, Mr. Speaker, in respect of some legal issues that we are trying to work out with the families.
Mr. Hudson says several legal issues remain to be sorted out with those families who are being relocated. He says the process has been ongoing for well over 20 years and it's time closure is brought.
We really have to make some decisions on whatever the legal problems are. It is really unreasonable and unfair, really, that we should have persons, families in that area and having their lives on hold for as long as 20 years. It really is an intolerable situation. I would certainly want to reaffirm the commitments that I've made to those residents to be doing all that we can at the ministry to try to address their concerns and try to get them into the houses as soon as possible.
Well, government has spent just over $8 million on improvement works at the airport. The Minister of International Transport, George Hudson, says the programs were carried out within budget and without cost overruns.
Within the past three years at the Grantley Adams International Airport, we have had to embark on a number of expansion programs. We've had to address the issue, Mr. Speaker, of an extension to the taxiway, which is currently in progress and is expected, Mr. Speaker, to be constructed at a cost, Mr. Speaker, in the vicinity of $8 million. And that work is well on the way to the eastern end of the runway.
Mr. Hudson says the airport authorities have also constructed a roof by the roadway at the northeastern section to stop persons checking in from getting wet when it rains. Tourism Minister Richard Seeley says the Barbados government fully supports efforts to keep Redjet flying. He said the government did the right thing when it embraced Air One Ventures and agreed to provide concessions to that company.
I have to make this point, Mr. Speaker. It is not only about tourism. It is about creating a whole industry that can see jobs, that can see investment. It will help even the truth is Redjet may do just as much for the tourism as some of our competitors as it may do for us. But we don't mind because this is another opportunity for jobs and for further investment and to see the same airport as well develop.
Well, the tourism minister also said the business model of LIAT was unsustainable, noting the cost of traveling to Trinidad and Tobago now stood at $639. He said it was an injustice to protect LIAT from Redjet and that the introduction of Redjet was the best thing to happen to LIAT.
If more and more people decide to start traveling and there's a larger pool, who then will benefit? LIAT, being the legacy player, should naturally have the pole position. What do you think is the best thing that ever happened for cable and wireless in the Caribbean? Digicel. What is the point in having 100% of 10,000 people when you can have 60% of 300,000? And this is the issue.
Well, concerns, however, were raised by the opposition about the local carrier Redjet. Ronald Toppin says while it is a national carrier and he would not like to see it fail, he is wary of the airline.
Then an airline comes to you and tells you it can service your routes on these various routes for $19.99 and $9.99. There's a certain natural skepticism that any sensible person would have or must have, sir, about that. So plus, there's the issue of the ownership of the airline, which seems to be quite controversial as to wherein lies the majority shareholding.
Mr. Tobin says several of what he terms fly-by-night carriers have benefited from support, and he believes this money could have been best spent on regional carrier LEAT. Well, another opposition MP, Roll Eastman, says it seems as though the introduction of Redjet has resulted in cheaper fares for people in the region. He says he was surprised at newspaper ads over the weekend offering significantly lower than usual airfares.
It is clearly because of Redjet that LEAT has suddenly come alive, and that LEAT presented a fare structure on the weekend, which if LEAT is business-like, it would have gone through the various possibilities, modalities, and such like, would have done a cost-benefit type of analysis, and now realizes that it has to function in a competitive environment.
Mr. Eastman says this is a trend that should continue as it would assist with cultural exchanges among CARICOM countries. In other news now, a 15-year-old third-form student of the Parkinson Memorial School was stabbed during an altercation outside the school's compound this afternoon. The incident, which occurred around 1:55, involved two other students of that school. The student was taken to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Reports are that the injuries are not life-threatening. We'll take a break here, but coming up we'll tell you what a PSV official says is causing the unruly behavior on a St. Thomas route. Overcrowding of minibuses and ZR vehicles is causing havoc on the Bridgetown to Jackson route. The allegedly reckless and dangerous practices of some PSV operators have triggered an outcry from residents and motorists. Speaking to CBC News, Vice President of the Association of Public Transport Operators, Judy Ford, said it was an issue the Transport Authority needs to address. Ms. Ford came face to face with the severity of the situation 2 weeks ago while traveling on a minibus to Bridgetown.
I took a good look at the situation, and that evening when I went to town, I drove to Bridgetown, and it was a mad, reckless ride, everybody trying to get in front of the other, each person trying to get in front of the other. And the worst part was to see conductors getting out and taking passengers out of other buses or saying we're going to get down first, and the passengers allowing themselves to be manipulated and being transferred from one vehicle to the next. And of course, the one who's behind will not be waiting. They will try to get ahead of 2 or 3 vehicles. So clearly, I mean, and when I look back, I actually saw more vehicles, PSV vehicles, on this route.
Well, there is an even bigger problem, which the APTO Vice President says has financial implications for the transport sector. Ms. Ford says private vehicles continue to pirate routes, collecting passengers in open view of everyone.
I noticed we have vehicles that carry the ZR Burgundy line that are being sold and that are remaining a pirate transportation vehicle with private numbers. The other problem is that we have ZMs, which is the maxi taxi, and those vehicles shouldn't really be plying the route. So we have the private cars coming on stream, we have the private pirates, we have the ZM vehicles. So you can gauge that based on that, how viable it is now compared to even 5 years ago.
Director General of the Barbados Red Cross Society, Edmund Bradshaw, says the organization's fundraising efforts are not doing well. Speaking at a raffle awards ceremony at his Warren's headquarters, Mr. Bradshaw said the main events, a raffle and a dinner, are not making as much money as in previous years. He indicated that the Barbados Red Cross may have to go in a different direction.
Even though we may continue with these things, our main focus is going to be in the whole area of marketing of programs and income generation from those programs. And particularly with our new headquarters here at Warren's, the overheads are a lot higher than we would have had before. So it's a lot more expensive to maintain a plant of this size.
Mr. Bradshaw says that they are now focusing on income-generating programs, which are already exciting the business community. He says this is also being propelled by new marketing personnel for the project.
He's concentrating on marketing new programs to the business community, and some of our old programs as well, the first aid and CPR. We've revamped the first aid training program, where we'll now be offering courses of shorter duration and 1-day and 2-day courses, which make it more attractive for people.
Steps are being taken to strengthen the business relationship between Barbados and Brazil through the UWI's Center for Enterprise and Entrepreneurship. Business people interested in benchmarking their operations and creating links in Brazil are being encouraged to take advantage of the Barbados-Brazil Business Program. One of its components is an interactive online language class that will teach participants Portuguese. The other is a tour to Brazil, where individuals will interact and learn from business owners. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Trade, Bentley Gibbs, applauded the work of the centre and said the program embraced critical aspects of government's agenda.
Programmatically, the provision of training, development, consulting and networking activities that are intended to offer individuals and groups the opportunity to refine ideas and identify resources that can help them to move from being innovators to entrepreneurs are indispensable action-oriented interventions.
Brazil's ambassador to Barbados, His Excellency Apio Claudio Aquarone, said the relationship between Barbados and Brazil is vital.
Therefore, Brazil sees with great interest the opportunity to deepen economic ties with Barbados. Furthermore, this positive moment for the Brazilian economy opens many business opportunities, including those related to Brazil's hosting of the 2014 Football World Cup. And I can tell you that football has some importance for us. And also the 2016 Olympic Games.
Crop over news now. The Cape Shepherd All-Stars tent says it will be shining even brighter this year. Tent manager Eleanor Rice says All-Stars will be hosting 9 shows, which she notes will have good music and robust performances from the Calypsonians. She was speaking during the tent's launch at Cape Shepherd's Ideal Restaurant this morning, with the opening show beginning on Sunday, June the 12th at the Queen's Park Steel Shed. Ms. Rice says although there is a decrease in the number of shows from last year, the goal remains the same, and that is to keep patrons happy.
This is about the public. This is about them and the public. So if we run a smaller amount of shows, you've invited the band to rehearse 6 or 7 nights to put on 2 or 3 shows. I think that is ridiculous. You ask the sponsors to put money in your hand to do 2 or 3 shows. Well, I don't look at it that way. I want to be able to do 12 shows, but this year we are going to be doing 9 shows.
Ms. Rice says there will also be new additions this year. The first will be a tribute to the late Carolyn Tassa Ford, in which a presentation will be made to her son. The other is an opportunity for people to sign up with the Betty West Band.
This year, Betty West's band will be represented at the tent every night. You're going to see the costumes on display, and some of her people would actually be there in costume. So that you can come to the tent and you can sign up for the band. You can sign up to be in her band. So that's another thing that we can look forward to.
Well, thousands crammed the car park of the National Stadium over the weekend for the final cavalcade and youth rally of the crop over season. Damien Best was there and filed this report.
4 cavalcades were presented to the public this year. These included Briar Hall in Christchurch, Gall Hill in St. John, and Emerald City Car Park in St. Philip. However, the 4th and final cavalcade in the car park of the National Stadium could only be described as saving the best for last, as thousands turned out to witness the strong entertainment package, which included artists such as Alison Hines, Red Plastic Bag, and Edwin Yearwood. Well, following the event, Minister of Culture Stephen Lashley said the cavalcade had provided a good precursor for what will be an exciting festival.
We started Crop Over this year with a number of very vital consultations with our stakeholders. The persons who are part and parcel of this festival, our vendors, our musicians, our calypsonians, everyone who is a part of this festival. They sat with us and they helped us to move through a number of issues that they've had over the years. And it's very, very purposeful that they have actually come on board and we have actually sat together and we've been able to solve so many of the issues which they've had.
Something was definitely happening when veteran entertainer Red Plastic Bag hit the stage for the first time this season. After his performance, the 9-time Calypso monarch said more cavalcades were needed.
I understand that money will be a concern, and the fact that things are not like they used to be. You know, is it going to be difficult to put on more cavalcades? One other thing I'd like to see in cavalcades is more commentary, so that we don't only promote one side of the music, but we also promote commentary to give the tents a chance to display or to advertise this, what they will be coming with.
Bag also commented on the quality of this year's Crop Over music.
I haven't heard a whole lot of the music as yet, but I heard some things that are impressive. I'm still trying I'm still hoping to see more calypsonians making an effort to put more stories in their songs. More soca artists writing stories so that these songs can last beyond the festival.
Next major Crop Over event is the BNB opening gala and ceremonial delivery of the last canes. That event is slated for the 2nd of July. Damien Best, CBC News.
All right, still to come, a look at stories making headlines across our region. Right now, the Courts Quiz. In what year was the 3rd campus of the University of the West Indies established in Barbados? In tonight's Courts Quiz, in what year was the 3rd campus of the University of the West Indies established in Barbados? In the year 1963. Regional carrier Liat said it had no choice but to send termination letters to staff at its city's ticketing offices. And against the background of warnings of strike action from regional trade unions, Liat's management adds it is confident it will be able to work the matter out with the unions to effect the planned closure of these regional offices. Corporate Communications Manager Desmond Brown noted that the decision to issue the letters was dictated by the need to cut costs swiftly. Those voluntary separation and early retirement packages were offered early last month, with the deadline for application being last Friday, June the 3rd. Mr. Brown said the responses had been very encouraging, but he did not say how many workers had applied. A 21-year-old woman who attempted to smuggle 2 kilograms of cocaine onto a plane from Guyana to Jamaica has been jailed for 4 years and fined $30,000. The woman pleaded guilty to the possession of narcotics for the purpose of trafficking. Chief Magistrate Priya Bihari, after hearing her plea for leniency, imposed the custodial and monetary penalties. Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit Prosecutor Oswald Messiah told the court that the cocaine was found in 10 pairs of shoes on June the 4th at the Chedijagan International Airport. The woman said she was going to Jamaica on vacation. Finance and Economy Minister Harold Lovell is promising residents of Antigua and Barbuda a stimulus package within 2 weeks to tide the country over the tough economic period. He was at the time addressing concerns over a new fuel price for the country. Minister Lovell expects the new price will be announced at the same time as the economic stimulus package. Ahead is the Lime Sports World. Before we get to that, our tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
Of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
Safer roads. These are roads that are predictable and forgiving of mistakes. They're self-explaining in that their design encourages safe travel speeds. This tip in association with the Decade of Action for Road Safety.
Welcome to Lime Sports World.
A very good evening to you. I am Mark Seal with your Lime Sports World. The Barbados Football Association is backing the banned Vice President of CONCACAF, Lyle Austin. In a letter to the president of FIFA, Sepp Blatter, from the BFA president Ronald Jones, there is the call for the immediate reinstatement of the Barbadian Austin to his post of acting president of CONCACAF. Jones stated that FIFA has a duty to respond to serious breaches and challenges within the organization, and he's urging FIFA to act with clarity and haste while promising Barbados' full support to FIFA. In a related story, the BFA president has finally spoken out, saying that none of his delegates at the recent Caribbean Football Union meeting in Trinidad and Tobago were offered inducements or gifts in return for support of any candidates for the FIFA elections. That meeting in TNT on May 10th led to the then FIFA presidential candidate Mohammed bin Haman and the FIFA vice president Jack Warner being banned pending an investigation into bribery allegations. The BFA says its accounts will be made available to the Ethics Committee of FIFA to clarify any misunderstandings. BFA General Secretary David Hines and Council Member Hallie Haynes joined representatives from 24 other Caribbean associations in Miami today as investigators began interviews surrounding that bribery scandal. The FIFA's Ethics Committee reportedly summoned all 25 associations from June 7th to 9th to be questioned about claims they were each offered or given $40,000 as a bribe by senior FIFA members bin Hammam and Warner. Meanwhile, newly re-elected FIFA President Sepp Blatter has reiterated that priority number one is improving FIFA's image.
We have to go forward and we have to cut all these allegation, criticism, whatever. We cannot do it in one day, but we will do it. And then coming back, why I am the man there, because there was no other possibility. There was, they had to elect a president, and at the end, I was the only candidate. I had in my manifesto, if this could be a manifesto, I have said something else. I have said zero tolerance is one thing, but I have also said the social, political, social and cultural implementation of football is important. But now it's to rebuild the image of FIFA. That's number one, and I have already started.
On to netball, the defending champions, St. Mary's, are still on course to retain the Pine Hill Dairy Primary School's title after the first set of playoff matches were contested today. Joining St. Mary's in the next round are St. Andrews, Sealer, Hildeskeen, St. Margaret's, Reynold Weeks, and St. Bernard's. CBC's Marcia Boyce was at the netball stadium for the action.
The reigning champions, St. Mary's here in Maroon, were up against St. David's, and of course they were favoured to make it into the next round. But St. David's put up a good fight and only trailed 3-2 at half-time. A switch in the goal circle for St. Mary's paid off, with Aisha Haynes going to goal shooter and Destiny Clark coming out at goal attack. Haynes would end with 6 from 9 in the game, Clark 4 from 5, as St. Mary's would easily win 10-3. Up next for them will be St. Andrew's Primary, who got the better of St. Giles. St. Giles here in red and grey would actually score first, but found themselves trailing 3-1 at half-time. St. Andrews would go on to win this game 6-4. Sealer Primary in grey and pink had an easier time against West Terrace. They led 6-0 at half-time and would eventually win 7-2. Their opponents in the next round will be Hildeskeen here in purple and red. The girls from St. Philip advanced with an 11-3 victory over St. Jude's. St. Margaret's in blue made it into the next round after coming away with a narrow 5-4 victory over Grisette's. Reynold Weeks in the pink bibs also advanced with a 1-goal victory over Bay Primary. This was a close encounter from the start as the teams were locked 5-all at half-time. Reynold Weeks' shooters didn't miss a single attempt in the match and were rewarded with a 10-9 victory. Meanwhile, St. Bernard's here in green and yellow marched into the next round with the biggest win of the day. They crushed St. Silas 14-1. Marcia Boyce, CBC Sports.
Thanks, Marcia. And the first round of playoff matches continues tomorrow. On to cricket, England's hopes of repeating their dramatic triumph in the first test were thwarted by determined Sri Lankan batting as the second test at Lord's ended in a draw today. After setting the tourists 343 to win in 58 overs, with Alistair Cook making his 6th century in 9 tests, the flurry of wickets never materialized, with Sri Lanka battling to 127 for 3 before the teams shook hands on a draw 15 overs before the scheduled close. Scores in the match: England 486 and 335 for 7 declared, Sri Lanka 479 and 127 for 3. We'll take a break here. When we come back, we'll be talking squash.
Everybody wants something different from their mobile. Some people want to stay in touch. Others just want to stay on top of it all. Some people want to choose the right plan for their lifestyle. Others just want it all in a bundle. Some love getting more for their money by carrying over unused minutes. Others just want more convenient ways to top up. But hey, whatever you want from your mobile, chances are you will find it with Line. Line, for living every day.
The Barbados Squash Open will serve off the 2011 squash season from June 13th to 18th. And despite the drop in the numbers of female competitors, the lineup for the championship is still expected to be a keenly competitive one.
The entries look quite encouraging, although we're not seeing too many entries from overseas on the ladies' side. But Karen is the multiple defending champion. She's played in this competition on 12 previous occasions and has only lost once in a final a few years ago. So she's won it 11 times. There are already entries on the men's side from the USA, Cayman and St. Vincent, and 4 of the top 8 men in the Caribbean will be here. As in previous years, there's a ladies event, there's a men's A event and a men's B event with a total of about 50 competitors expected.
And Barbados has already started preparations to defend their Caribbean titles.
All of our top players are in training now because Barbados are the defending senior Caribbean champions. The ladies won the Caribbean team title last year in St. Vincent, and we're looking to defend that team title in the 2011 edition of the competition. That will be in August, and the competition will be played in Cayman.
On to basketball. Co-operators General Tridents lost their first game of the season, while British American Insurance Jackson continued their good start to the BABA season, when basketball Premier League action continued at the YMCA recently. CBC's Anne-Marie Burke reports.
Tridents in the green were down 22-32 at the half, and with Pilots good on both offense and defense, it told the tale. With the steal, Ramon Simmons, and he went for the one-handed dunk. Tridents were quick to respond just inside the circle, that's 2 to their score, but Pilots just continued to create play after play, like this drive to the heart of the Tridents D, and the boys from the Pine led 48-35 at the end of the third quarter. Into the final quarter, and Tridents were still in the fight. Kareem Neblett leading the way, an easy 2. This time, a failed jumper gave Pinelands the advantage, and it was Simmons again to finish the play. He had 13 points. Another double-figure Pinelands player, Kurt Elias, also getting in on the points. That was 1 off the board. Pinelands went on to be victorious over Tridents, 63-41. The night's other games saw British American Insurance Jackson up against Colombian Emeralds International Senators. Senators with that 3-pointer. And Javid Beckles ensured that Jackson would respond in the very same way with a 3. And look at this play, teamwork at its best. Jackson with another 2. And speaking of creating plays, Senators attempted at them too, but luckily the ball bounced off the player's foot and into his teammate's hand for an easy basket. But Jackson kept the heat on to Trunks Senators 82-63. Anne-Marie Burke, CBC Sports.
There is no change at the top of the Barbados Blind Cricket Association. Cleveland Mayors has been returned as president of that association at their recent annual general meeting. However, Don Ward Ryan is the new vice president, Emily Lynch, the secretary, Juanita Paul Gibbs, the assistant secretary, Yvonne Babb, the treasurer, Ernie Young, public relations officer, while Carrison Henry is the cricket development officer. Now, speaking during the AGM, Paul Brummel, the British High Commissioner to Barbados, said sports can be a major vehicle for growth and development in many countries around the world. While some people still see sports as a luxury or an optional add-on, Brummel said it is very much at the heart of the development of any nation, including the United Kingdom.
The London Olympics will be a big showcase of the United Kingdom in a commercial sense, actually, as well as in a touristic and as well as in a sporting sense. Sporting collaboration with countries around the world is an important part of our network of friendships and alliances. It's also part of the commercial development of countries overseas. It's also part of countries overseas developing their identities. So all of that, I think, we would see as part of the same program and same process.
Next, Pearson Boyne returns with the business report.
This has been Lime Sports World.
Next on the CBC Evening News, the Business Report, brought to you by Sagicor General. Wise financial thinking for life.
Well, after 6 months of operations, the United Business Network is reporting growth in all of its segments. One of the directors, Patrick Croney, told CBC News the network now has 30 members, up from an initial 20. The network, which meets at the Girls Industrial Union twice each month, provides a business-to-business forum for its members.
One of the things we stressed upon is how to be more effective in our businesses. We stressed upon the quality of service, the time framing of your service, as well as your price range of your service. And we are here also not only to look for business, but to help train one another as how to be more efficient and more effective in our businesses.
Well, in its 6 months of existence, UBN has generated just under $32,000 in earnings for its members, and Mr. Croney is confident this type of growth will continue.
Because of the fact that, members are getting the hang of becoming more efficient in the business, and to be more professional, this will help in the area of, turning over more growth for the business. So I'm really optimistic of that, we're going to see a great turnover, hopefully a double in our efforts as to helping one another to find new business out there, and with that, it should result in a greater turnover in our dollar figure.
Rosalind Belgrave is a member of the UBN and says the experience has been beneficial.
Business basically is down, but still I've been able to forge relationships with my fellow UBN members, and what that has done, that has actually brought me quite a few referrals during the past 6 months, and those are, although I have gotten some referrals that are leading into possible sales. I've had a couple of properties for sale, a couple of rentals that I still have on my books as well, so I have been able to generate some business from the UBN experience.
Ms. Belgrave operates Our Best Property Management and says the smaller businesses in this area have struggled.
There are more properties out there, quite honestly, right now than there are buyers. So things are slow. So therefore, what is very important now is the networking that you can do, because what little business there is out there, you have to make sure that you are part of it. You have to be part of it. So you have to keep your networking up, keep forging on with your, referrals.
Now here's a summary of today's trading on some of the region's stock exchanges.
Life. Some people see it as one big obstacle course. I see it as an adventure, bigger than a game. What do you see?
Sagicor General has a wealth of insurance solutions to help you protect your dreams, including your home, car, cargo, and business. Dreaming can be like a sneak peek to the future when you have the right financial partner. Sagicor General, wise financial thinking for life.
I see myself winning.
Within 5 to 7 years, the International Air Transport Authority hopes to have ultra-modern security systems installed at airports worldwide. Head of Security at IATA, Ken Dunlap, walked CNN's Andrew Stevens through what is to become the one-stop shop for security in the future.
The first thing you need to do is identify yourself to our system. Passport in here. It says it's normal. I'm a normal person. And that's the result of passenger pre-screening that's been done by your government. And it's also the result of a known traveler program that your government may choose to implement within your country. Okay, so I'm through this stage. And we have a smart system. Through the normal channel, okay. What do I do now? And we're asking you to identify yourself one last time so you don't sneak into the tunnel you don't belong into. Passport in there, iris scan. This says everything's okay. I'm still good. You're fine, and you're clear to walk through the tunnel and receive your security scanning. So walking through the tunnel, security scanning. I've got X-ray, metal detector, liquid detector, shoe scanner, and explosive trace, which has just gone red. They've traced explosives on me. I've got a sign here that says alarm activated. Absolutely. So what happens now? I'm taken off and extra checks done. So let me tell you what doesn't happen first. You're not going to have a security screener meet you and start patting down your person and perhaps violating your privacy or doing something that you would prefer not to have. What we do instead is we have an additional security lane where a security officer would come and meet you here and escort you to a second lane where you can continue to walk in the same fashion and receive additional and enhanced screening. Okay, so let's assume I've gone through everything there clean. I can now board my flight.
Wow, isn't that fascinating? Well, that's business today. Selma Green has the weather details after the break.
The CBC Evening News Business Report was brought to you by Sagicor General, wise financial thinking for life.
Good evening and welcome back. We're watching a tropical wave just on our doorsteps that's headed our way. Cloudy with showers across many of the islands today, but not Barbados, at least not as far as the showers are concerned. It was partly cloudy and hazy today, but we did enjoy a lot of sunshine. The high temperature today, 30.4 degrees Celsius, and overnight we saw the temperature middling between 26 and 27 degrees Celsius. And right now, it's looking to be pretty warm on the outside. The relative humidity, 82%, and the winds are moderate and coming in from the east. And first we go eastwards across the Atlantic to see where that tropical wave is, around 55 degrees west, headed our way at a moderate pace. And by later on tonight, earlier tomorrow, we're expecting that it's going to be generating some showers across our area. If you put our second satellite picture in motion now, we see what happens across the region today, and lots of clouds which were around yesterday generating showers over the other islands. Those clouds have shifted towards the north, but today there was an influx of moisture, so we saw additional cloud coverage across the entire Eastern Caribbean, resulting in showers over most of the islands, but not the heavy shower activity that we would have seen yesterday. Antigua, St. Kitts, St. Lucia has some showers, even St. Martin as well. Winds over our area continue to be light though, and seas are moderate. And looking into the larger islands, all of the islands, Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, Jamaica, had showers today, as well as some thunderstorms, the exception the Bahamas and Cuba, because of a trough system affecting that area. But in addition to that, we're looking at a low that expands across quite a large area of the Caribbean Sea, and that low is looking to have the potential. There's a 50% chance that it could become a depression. Reconnaissance aircraft is going to go in tonight to take a closer look, but at the moment generating very heavy rains, especially over Jamaica, Haiti, and the eastern part of Cuba, that could cause mudding, mudslides and flooding. And of course, showers will continue because of that trough system across the rest of those larger islands. And here, across the Eastern Caribbean, a trough will affect the northern islands, so showers will persist there. And for us here, across the southern portion, it's going to continue to be generally fair, only the odd shower here and there. And as that tropical wave moves over the area later on tonight into tomorrow, it's going to cause an influx of moisture, which could pass some showers, but by Thursday, we're going to see a general drying out of the area. We take a look at the 4-day forecast now, and it's going to be partly cloudy with scattered showers on Wednesday and Thursday, fair to partly cloudy on Friday and Saturday. Sunrise will be at 29 before 6 and the sun will set at 23 past 6. So first daytime high tide 8:15 in the morning and the first daytime low 26 minutes before 3. Winds first will come in from the east southeast to the east at 15 to 35 kilometers per hour. And the seas will be slight to moderate in open water with swells rising to about 2 meters. Tonight it's going to be partly cloudy to cloudy with scattered showers and a chance of possible isolated thunderstorms. Tomorrow partly cloudy with a few scattered showers. And we leave you now with forecast weather conditions for the region and then our selected international cities.
Now here's a recap of the top stories interpreted for the hearing impaired and brought to you with the compliments of Carlton and Emerald City supermarkets, where the weekly specials are at better prices.
Government is looking to tackle the cost of living at the farming level by using the next annual AgroFest Expo to promote the use of renewable energy. Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Agricultural Society, James Paul, says they will be targeting farmers to get them to use renewable energy wherever possible in their daily operations. Locally based regional carrier Redjet today announced it has laid off 8 members of its cabin crew. A company spokesperson said the decision was a difficult one for the low-cost airline, which began flights out of Grantley Adams International Airport about a month ago. In a statement, Redjet blamed regulatory delays which have adversely affected plans for the start of flights to Trinidad and Jamaica. Tonight, partly cloudy to cloudy with some scattered showers and possible isolated thunderstorms. Tomorrow, partly cloudy with a few scattered showers.
That recap of the top stories interpreted for the hearing impaired was brought to you with the compliments of Carlton and Emerald City supermarkets, where the weekly specials are at better prices.
Well, a week after claiming a hacker had posted a lewd photo to his Twitter account, U.S. Representative Anthony Weiner has apologized for lying about the ordeal. He's also admitted carry on inappropriate relationships with several women he'd met online. We get more in this Jeannie Mose report.
The cameras sounded like a firing squad and must have felt like one to Anthony Weiner. He took a last drink, but the waterworks that mattered came out of his eyes and his sniffling nose.
I've done things I deeply regret. I am deeply regretting what I have done.
Sorry to the media for all the stonewalling he did.
You would know if this is your underpants, for example.
The question is, I appreciate you continuing to flash that at me.
But it was when pictures like this flashed out from the conservative website Big Government that Congressman Weiner's goose was cooked. Pictures exchanged consensually, he said, with women he met through Facebook.
I don't know what I was thinking. This was a destructive thing to do.
Some of the pictures were playful, flashing a sign saying "me" with his wedding ring fully visible, or posing with 2 cats behind him with a caption full of double meaning, according to the Big Government website. And when he bared his torso, it was with what appeared to include family photos arrayed behind him. The owner of BigGovernment.com says he didn't publish the worst photo.
It's of an X-rated nature.
The person Congressman Weiner apologized to the most was his wife.
I love my wife very much, and we have no intention of splitting up over this.
How things have changed since Congressman Weiner referred to his wife at the Congressional Correspondents' Dinner just over 2 months ago.
And she's, lovely and elegant and brilliant and widely respected throughout this town, so obviously opposites attract.
Back then he cracked.
I do the Weiner jokes around here, guys.
Now everyone's doing them. Even a sausage restaurant in Brooklyn called Der Kommissar is advertising a special.
It's called the Anthony's Wieners.
2 hot dogs on French bread drizzled with olive oil, $6 while supplies laughs. Owner Alex Darcy says it's given the new restaurant a nice little boost.
It's juicy and delicious.
but no juicier than the scandal itself.
This was a very dumb thing to do.
Well, that's our time tonight. Thank you for spending it with us. I'm Pearson Bowen. For the crew, to all of you, good night. By God's will, we'll see you tomorrow.
Crop Over 2011. It's our heritage. It's our culture. It's explosive color and pulsating rhythms. CBC TV8, right there with you this Crop Over.